The medbay of the humanitarian vessel Sanctuary hummed with the quiet efficiency of advanced medical technology. But it was the silence of its chief medic that truly defined the space. Kira Thane moved through the sterile corridors like a ghost, her footsteps barely audible against the polished metal floors. The Alari woman's pale blue skin seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and the intricate patterns that traced across her arms and neck remained carefully hidden beneath her medical uniform's long sleeves and high collar. Few aboard the Sanctuary had ever heard her speak more than necessary. Medical orders, treatment protocols, supply requests. Her voice carried the clinical precision of someone who had learned to communicate only what was essential. The crew respected her skills, feared her intensity, and whispered about the scars they sometimes glimpsed when she reached for instruments or adjusted her sleeves. Commander Jax Rivera had heard the whispers, but he'd never paid them much attention. The human tactical engineer had more pressing concerns than shipboard gossip. Keeping the Sanctuary's aging systems operational while they delivered aid to war-torn colonies required his full concentration. That concentration had nearly cost him his life when the plasma conduit in Section 7 overloaded during a routine maintenance check. The electrical discharge had thrown him across the engineering bay, leaving angry burns across his right hand and forearm. Now, as he sat on the examination table in the med bay, he found himself studying the medic who worked on his injuries with mechanical precision. The neural pathways weren't damaged, Kira said, her voice carrying the musical quality common to the Alari species, though hers seemed muted, as if she were deliberately dampening its natural resonance. The burns are primarily surface level, but I'll need to apply a cellular regenerator to prevent scarring. Jax watched her work, noting how she avoided direct eye contact, how her hands never lingered on his skin longer than absolutely necessary. There was something almost fragile about her careful movements, as if she were protecting herself as much as treating him. "You've been aboard the Sanctuary for 2 years," he said, breaking the clinical silence. "I don't think we've ever actually been introduced properly. I'm Jax." She paused in her work for just a moment, her violet eyes flickering up to meet his, before quickly returning to the injury. "I know who you are, Commander Rivera. Everyone knows the man who keeps this ship running. Just Jax is fine. And you're Kira Thane, the medic who can work miracles but never stays for the gratitude." Something shifted in her expression, a tightening around her eyes that suggested old pain. "I do my job, that's enough." The regenerator hummed as she applied it to his burns, and Jax felt the familiar tingling sensation of accelerated healing. But he also noticed something else, a faint luminescence beneath her sleeves, as if her skin was lit from within. When she reached for a fresh bandage, her sleeve rode up slightly, revealing the edge of what looked like intricate scarring that seemed to pulse with soft, bioluminescent light. "Those markings," he said softly, "they're not from combat, are they?" Kira's entire body went rigid. She jerked her sleeve down and stepped back from the examination table so quickly that the medical scanner clattered to the floor. For a moment, her carefully constructed composure cracked, and Jack saw something raw and vulnerable in her expression: fear, longing, and a profound loneliness that made his chest tighten. "Your treatment is complete," she said, her voice now completely devoid of emotion. "Change the dressing every 12 hours. Return in 3 days for follow-up assessment." She turned away, busying herself with unnecessary equipment adjustments, clearly desperate for him to leave. But Jax found himself reluctant to go, drawn by the mystery of this woman who seemed to carry the weight of the universe on her shoulders. "Kira," he said gently, "if you ever want to talk." "I don't." The words came out sharp, final. "I don't talk, Commander. I heal. That's what I'm here for." As Jax left the medbay, he couldn't shake the image of those luminescent patterns beneath her sleeves, or the haunted look in her violet eyes. Something told him that Kira Thane was hiding far more than scars. She was hiding secrets that could change everything. 3 days later, Jax found himself standing outside the medbay, his healed hand flexing unconsciously as he debated whether to enter. The follow-up appointment was routine, but something about his last encounter with Kira had left him unsettled. The image of those glowing patterns beneath her sleeves haunted his thoughts, along with the profound sadness he'd glimpsed in her violet eyes. When he finally entered, Kira was bent over a molecular scanner, her movements precise and controlled, as always. She didn't look up when the doors hissed shut behind him. "On schedule," she said simply, gesturing to the examination table. "Remove the bandaging." Jax unwrapped his hand, noting how completely the burns had healed. "Your work is impressive. Not even a mark left." "Cellular regeneration is standard procedure," she approached with her scanner, maintaining her usual careful distance. "Extend your arm." As she ran the device over his skin, Jax studied her face. Up close, he could see faint traces of bioluminescence beneath her high collar, like starlight, trapped under ice. "Kira, what I saw the other day was nothing." She cut him off, her voice tight. "Hold still." The ship suddenly lurched violently to one side, throwing them both off balance. Emergency lighting flickered on as the main power grid fluctuated. Jack stumbled forward, instinctively reaching out to steady himself, his hand closing around Kira's bare forearm where her sleeve had rolled up during the scanner work. The moment his skin made contact with hers, everything changed. Light exploded across Kira's body, brilliant cascading waves of bioluminescence that traced every scar, every pattern hidden beneath her clothing. The intricate designs weren't just markings, they were circuitry, living technology that pulsed with ancient power. Her eyes rolled back, glowing like twin stars as energy surged through her. The medbay's systems went haywire. Screens flickered and died. Medical equipment sparked, and the ship's AI fell silent with an electronic whine. Emergency alarms blared as power fluctuated throughout the sanctuary. Through the observation windows, Jax could see corridor lights strobing in chaotic patterns. Kira's body convulsed in his arms, her back arching as waves of suppressed memories crashed through her consciousness. Jax held her tighter, feeling the electricity dancing across her skin, not painful but alive, aware, searching. "Kira! Kira, stay with me!" Her lips moved soundlessly, speaking words in a language he didn't recognize. The patterns on her skin shifted and flowed like liquid light, rearranging themselves into new configurations. For a terrifying moment, her pulse stopped entirely. Then, as suddenly as it began, the surge ended. The light stabilized, the alarms quieted, and Kira collapsed against his chest, gasping. Her scarred skin still glowed faintly, but the chaotic energy had settled into steady, rhythmic pulses like a heartbeat made of light. "What just happened?" Jax whispered, still holding her trembling form. For the first time since he'd known her, she felt fragile, human despite her alien nature. Kira lifted her head, and he saw that her eyes were different now, deeper, ancient, filled with knowledge that hadn't been there moments before. "You touched me," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated in his bones. "No one has touched me skin to skin in over 50 years. Your scars. They're not scars at all, are they?" She pulled back slightly but didn't try to escape. His embrace. The walls she'd built around herself seemed to be crumbling. "They're memory banks, living data storage. I'm not just a medic, Jax. I'm a keeper of the dead." The weight of revelation hung between them. Jax reached up, gently brushing a strand of her dark hair away from her face. The simple gesture made her breath catch. "Whatever you are," he said, softly, "you don't have to carry it alone anymore." Kira's carefully constructed composure finally shattered. Tears traced silver paths down her luminescent cheeks as she pressed her forehead against his shoulder. "You don't understand. The things I remember now, the knowledge I carry, it could destroy everything." Jax tightened his arms around her, feeling the warm pulse of light beneath her skin. "Then we'll figure it out together." For the first time in decades, Kira Thane allowed herself to be held, to be comforted, to feel the possibility that she might not have to face the universe alone. The patterns on her skin glowed softer now, responding to the warmth of human touch, the promise of connection she'd denied herself for so long. Outside, the sanctuary continued its mission of mercy, unaware that its quiet medic had just become something far more dangerous and precious than anyone could imagine. Hours later, in the quiet sanctuary of the observation deck, Kira sat beside Jax watching the stars wheel slowly past the viewport. Her sleeve was rolled back, revealing the intricate network of bioluminescent patterns that covered her arm like living tattoos. The light pulsed gently, synchronized with her heartbeat. "My people called us the Valerians," she said, her voice carrying new depth, ancient wisdom mixing with present vulnerability. "We were scholars, scientists, keepers of knowledge. Our entire civilization was built around the preservation and sharing of information." Jax watched the patterns shift across her skin, mesmerized by their beauty. What happened to them? War. The single word carried the weight of genocide. The hegemony came with their fleets demanding our submission. When we refused to weaponize our knowledge, they decided to eliminate us entirely. Her fingers traced one of the glowing lines on her forearm. "These aren't scars from battle. They're living archives, the entire collective memory of my species, compressed into organic circuitry and implanted beneath my skin." The revelation staggered him. "You're carrying the memories of an entire civilization? History, science, philosophy, art, literature, everything that made us who we were. I was chosen as a memory keeper when I was barely more than a child. The process nearly killed me." She lifted her other arm, showing him similar patterns that disappeared beneath her clothing. "There are 12 of us scattered across the galaxy, each carrying different aspects of Valerian knowledge. I thought I was the only one left." Jax reached out slowly, asking permission with his eyes. When she nodded, he gently took her hand, marveling at the warm pulse of light that responded to his touch. "The suppression. Why hide all this? The implantation process includes memory dampeners. We were meant to sleep until it was safe to emerge, until we found others who could be trusted with what we carry." Her fingers intertwined with his, and the patterns on her skin brightened. "Your touch somehow overrode the suppressors. 53 years of dormant memories came flooding back all at once." 53 years? He looked at her face, searching for signs of age he'd missed. "How old are you? Time moves differently for us when the memories are suppressed. I've experienced perhaps 20 years while carrying the weight of millennia." She turned to face him fully, vulnerability shining in her violet eyes. "I remember being a child, in the archives of Valeris Prime. I remember the taste of crystalline fruit from our orbital gardens. I remember the day the hegemony ships darkened our skies." The pain in her voice made his chest tighten. Without thinking, he reached up to cup her face, his thumb brushing away a tear that glowed like liquid starlight. "I'm sorry. For what they took from you, for what you've had to carry alone." The simple touch sent cascades of light racing across her skin. "Jax," she whispered, and his name on her lips sounded like music, like a prayer answered after too long in silence. "What is it?" "I'm remembering what it feels like to not be alone, to be touched without fear, to be seen without hiding." She leaned into his palm, her eyes closing. "My people believed that knowledge shared multiplied, while knowledge hoarded died. For 50 years I've been hoarding memories like a miser hoards gold. Maybe it's time to start sharing again." She opened her eyes, studying his face in the starlight. "Are you sure? What I carry, some of it is dangerous. Weapons technology, genetic manipulation, ways to reshape matter at the molecular level. In the wrong hands? Good thing they're in the right hands then." He shifted closer, drawn by the magnetic pull of her presence. "Besides, you won't be carrying it alone anymore." The space between them seemed to collapse. Kira's hand found his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart. "I've forgotten how to trust," she admitted. "How to let someone close. We'll figure it out together. No rush, no pressure." His other hand found the small of her back, and she gasped softly as the patterns there responded to his touch. "I'm not going anywhere." She looked up at him, and for the first time since he'd known her, she smiled. Really smiled, not the polite mask she wore for duty. The expression transformed her entire face, making her radiant. "The Valerians had a saying," she said, moving closer until her forehead touched his. "Kethara valeth. Knowledge blooms in the garden of trust." "Sounds like wisdom worth preserving," he murmured. When their lips met, it was gentle, tentative, a first connection after a lifetime of isolation. Light bloomed across Kira's skin like flowers opening to sunlight, patterns shifting and flowing in response to emotions long suppressed. She pulled back, breathless, her hand pressed to her mouth, in wonder. "I can feel it," she whispered, "the barriers breaking down, memories flowing freely for the first time in decades." She looked at him with something approaching awe. "You're not just healing my loneliness, Jax. You're helping me become whole again." Under the endless canopy of stars, they held each other, as ancient knowledge stirred to life, and two hearts began the delicate dance of falling in love across the vast gulf between species and time. Over the following weeks, Kira's awakening abilities began to manifest in ways that both amazed and alarmed the crew of the sanctuary. She could interface with the ship's computer systems through touch alone, her consciousness merging with quantum processors in ways that defied understanding. Medical emergencies that should have taken hours to diagnose were resolved in minutes as she accessed databases across the galactic network with her mind. But with power came suspicion. "She's dangerous," Chief Navigator Wells whispered to a group of officers in the mess hall, unaware that Jax had entered behind them. "Did you see what happened to the hydroponics bay yesterday?" She touched one console and suddenly the entire agricultural system was rewriting itself. "The crop yields increased by 40%. Jax interjected, his voice sharp. "She saved us 3 weeks of food rationing." Wells turned, his weathered face creased with concern. "That's not the point, Rivera. She's changing too fast, becoming too powerful. Yesterday she predicted a cascade failure in the port engines 12 hours before our diagnostics even detected a problem. How do we know she's not causing these issues to make herself seem indispensable?" The accusation hung in the air like poison. Jax felt his hands clench into fists. Kira would never. Wouldn't she? Wells stepped closer. "We don't know what she really is anymore. Hell, we don't even know if she's still the same person who came aboard 2 years ago." That evening, Jax found Kira in her quarters, sitting cross-legged on her bed with her eyes closed and her skin pulsing with soft light. The patterns across her arms and neck flowed like living rivers, processing vast streams of information. "The crew is scared," he said without preamble. Her eyes opened, ancient and sad. "I know. I can hear their whispers in the ship's communication array, feel their elevated stress patterns through the biometric sensors." She stood, moving to the small viewport. "They're not wrong to be afraid. I can access any system, read any file, predict failures that haven't happened yet. I'm becoming something beyond their understanding." Jax moved behind her, his hand settling on her shoulders. The moment he touched her, the chaotic flow of light across her skin calmed, organizing into gentle spirals. "You're still you. Still the woman who spent 14 hours straight saving the colonists on Kepler Station. Still the person who cried when we lost those refugees in the Titan Nebula." She leaned back against his chest, seeking comfort in his warmth. "But I'm also something else now, something my people created to survive extinction." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Sometimes I can feel them, Jax. The memories of thousands of Valerians, all their hopes and fears and dreams flowing through me. It's becoming harder to tell where they end and I begin." He turned her in his arms, studying her luminescent features. "Then hold on to what anchors you. Hold on to us." The word us sent a pulse of brighter light across her skin. "Is that what we are, an us?" Instead of answering with words, Jax kissed her, pouring all his certainty into the contact. She responded desperately, as if drawing strength from his touch. The patterns on her skin blazed brighter, but instead of the chaotic energy from before, they formed harmonious mandalas of light. "I love you," she breathed against his lips, the admission carrying harmonics that resonated through his bones. "Not just the comfort you provide, not just the anchor you represent. I love who you are, how you see the universe, the way you believe in people even when they disappoint you. I love you too, he whispered, his hands framing her face. All of you. The medic, the memory keeper, the woman who's trying to figure out who she's becoming. They moved together toward her bed, hands exploring, mapping territories both familiar and new. When his fingers traced the luminescent patterns on her arms, she arched beneath him, gasping at sensations that were both physical and something beyond the purely corporeal. The light beneath her skin responded to his touch, creating cascades of color that painted them both in shifting hues. I can feel your heartbeat through the neural interface, she murmured, her hands pulling him closer. Your emotions, your desire. It's beautiful. Their lovemaking was tender and desperate in equal measure, two souls finding solace in connection while the universe watched with suspicious eyes. In those moments, surrounded by her gentle luminescence, Jax understood that whatever dangers lay ahead, they would face them together. Afterward, as they lay entwined in her narrow bunk, Kira's communication implant chimed with an urgent message. She stiffened, her skin flaring bright as she processed the incoming data. What is it? Jax asked, alarmed by her sudden tension. Long-range sensors are detecting military vessels approaching our position. 3 ships heavily armed. Her eyes met his, filled with ancient terror. It's the hegemony. They've found me. The ship shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace, and Admiral Voss's voice echoed through the communication array, cold and commanding. Attention vessel sanctuary. You are harboring stolen hegemony property. Surrender the subject known as Kira Thane and your crew will be spared. Jax pulled her closer, feeling her trembling against him. They can't have you. I won't let them. But even as he spoke the words, they both knew that their peaceful interlude was over. The galaxy had come calling, and it wanted its memory keeper back. The bridge of the sanctuary was a chaos of flashing alerts and tense voices as Admiral Voss's ultimatum counted down. Kira stood at the center of it all, her skin blazing with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in rhythm with the ship's stressed systems. She had become something beyond human or Ilari, a living conduit between organic consciousness and quantum technology. 15 minutes until they opened fire, Captain Torres reported, her weathered face grim. Their weapons are locked. Onto our position. I can feel their targeting systems, Kira said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. 3 dreadnoughts, each carrying enough firepower to glass a small moon. They're not here to negotiate, they're here to collect or destroy. Jax moved to her side, his presence immediately calming the chaotic flow of energy across her skin. There has to be another way. We can't let them take you. Admiral Voss has been hunting memory keepers for decades, she replied, her violet eyes reflecting depths of borrowed knowledge. He believes that controlling us gives the hegemony the power to reshape the galaxy. He's not entirely wrong. Through the neural interface she'd established with the ship's systems, Kira could feel every pulse of the sanctuary's aging heart. The humanitarian vessel wasn't built for combat. It was designed to heal, to help, to hope. But now it carried the most dangerous cargo in known space, the living memory of a dead civilization. Captain, Admiral Voss's voice crackled through the comm system. Your time is running short. The Valyrian war criminal will be turned over to hegemony custody, or your ship will be destroyed as an enemy combatant. War criminal? Kira's laugh was bitter, ancient. We refused to build weapons for them, so they labeled us criminals and committed genocide. 53 years later, they still can't see the irony. The bridge crew looked at her with a mixture of awe and fear. Chief Navigator Wells, who had questioned her loyalty days before, now stood speechless as she interfaced with systems throughout the ship, preparing defenses they didn't know they had. Kira, Jax said softly, whatever you're planning. I'm going to give them a choice, she interrupted, her patterns shifting to configurations that hurt to look at directly. The same choice my people were given 53 years ago. Surrender or fight. She placed her palm against the central console, and every system on the sanctuary came alive with Valyrian technology. Shields that had been operating at 60% efficiency suddenly blazed at full power. Engines that had been straining against their design limits found new reserves of energy. Weapon systems that hadn't existed moments before began to manifest as matter itself rearranged at the molecular level. "This is impossible," Chief Engineer Patel whispered, staring at readings that defied physics. "She's rewriting our entire ship." "Not rewriting," Kira corrected, her consciousness expanding through every circuit, every quantum processor. "Remembering. My people built this technology before the hegemony existed. We've just forgotten how to use it." Admiral Voss's ships opened fire, but their weapons splashed harmlessly against shields that bent space-time itself. The Sanctuary responded with precision strikes that disabled their targeting systems without destroying the vessels. A surgical demonstration of power that made the hegemony fleet suddenly cautious. "Impressive," Admiral Voss transmitted, his voice tight with controlled fury. "But you cannot run forever, Memory Keeper. There are 12 of you scattered across the galaxy. We will find them all eventually." "No," Kira said, her voice now carrying the weight of her entire species. "You won't." She reached out through the galactic communication network, her consciousness touching systems light years away. One by one, she began to awaken her fellow Memory Keepers, Thane on Arcturus Prime, Feltar in the Outer Rim, others whose true names had been forgotten even by themselves. "Kira, what are you doing?" Jax asked, feeling the ship tremble around them as power flowed through systems never meant to channel such energy. "What we should have done 50 years ago," she replied. "We're sharing our knowledge freely, openly, with anyone who will use it to heal rather than harm. Medical advances, agricultural improvements, clean energy technology, everything we are given as a gift to the galaxy." The implications staggered him. The hegemony will never allow it. They'll declare war on anyone who accepts Valerian knowledge. Then they'll be fighting the entire galaxy. Her smile was radiant, ancient, and utterly uncompromising. "Let them try to suppress knowledge when every world has access to it." Admiral Voss's voice came through the comm, desperate now. "You don't understand what you're doing. This technology is too dangerous for anyone but you," Kira interrupted. "My people died believing that knowledge belonged to all sentient beings. I won't dishonor their sacrifice by hiding what they died to preserve." The hegemony ships began to withdraw, their commanders realizing that they faced not just one Memory Keeper, but the awakening legacy of an entire civilization. As they jumped to hyperspace, Admiral Voss transmitted one final warning. "This isn't over, war criminal. The hegemony will not forget." "Neither will we," Kira replied softly. As the immediate threat passed, the ship's systems slowly returned to normal configurations. Kira swayed on her feet, exhausted by the tremendous effort, but Jax was there to catch her, his arms strong and sure around her waist. "Is it done?" he asked. "It's begun," she corrected, leaning into his embrace. "My people's knowledge is spreading across the galaxy. Medical advances that will save millions of lives, energy technologies that will end scarcity, agricultural techniques that will feed entire worlds. The hegemony can try to stop it, but knowledge, once shared, takes on a life of its own." Captain Torres approached them cautiously. "What happens now? The hegemony will be hunting us, and half the galaxy will be afraid of what you've unleashed." "Then we do what we've always done," Kira said, her patterns glowing softly with contentment rather than power. "We help. We heal. We hope." She looked up at Jax, her violet eyes bright with love and possibility. "But now we do it together." Months later, as the Sanctuary delivered advanced medical supplies to a plague-stricken colony in the Outer Rim, Jax found Kira in the observation deck where they'd first shared their fears and dreams. She stood silhouetted against the stars, her skin glowing gently with the light of ancient knowledge made new. "Any regrets?" he asked, slipping his arms around her from behind. She leaned back against his chest, her patterns shifting to accommodate his touch. "Only that it took 50 years and a stubborn human engineer to remind me who I was meant to be." "And who's that?" "Someone who doesn't carry the weight of the universe alone." She turned in his arms, her smile radiant with joy. someone who found her way home. When he kissed her, the patterns on her skin formed perfect spirals of light, not the chaotic energy of suppressed memories or desperate power, but the gentle illumination of knowledge shared, love given freely, and a future built on the foundations of hope. In the distance, new stars were being born, and across the galaxy, civilizations were awakening to possibilities they'd never dreamed of. The memory keepers had kept their promise, and the universe would never be the same.